Good morning, Max. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's quiet here this morning, and you sound a little throaty, and you've got the patient background, so I'm guessing things aren't all perfect this evening in the
Yeah.
City of Light. How are you? Tell me what's up.
Well, I've been better. Um, it's now December, so it's cold outside. We don't really have snow, but it's cold enough that, I mean, you can hear from my voice that there is something happening here. The story today is not directly related to this, even though it's about me getting to Paris, so probably caught a cold while doing this. Um, no, that's a story of digitalization going wrong, and you know how much
Oh,
I love
yeah.
digitalization. So,
Wow, this sounds painful. I think you need to get on a couch and let's go.
all right, let's do that. So, there's so many pieces to this story. Let me try to put it together in a way that would make sense for the audience here. In France, in Paris specifically, we have metro. Which, by the way, is the oldest one in Europe. 1900 is the opening of the first line, so it has been a while.
Wow.
um, but we don't just have metro. We have metro, we have RER, which is kind of halfway between a train and a metro. We have Transilien, which is train that goes from Paris train stations to the suburbs. So it's like RER plus plus, and then you have the standard train lines that go
Right.
all over Europe and the rest of France. um, the Transilien plus RER plus metro, and there's tram as well, and there are buses and all of that is really the network of what we call Île-de-France, which is Paris and its suburbs. Right. And a few years ago, Paris decided that they wanted to move away from the traditional paper tickets, which is terrible for the environment,
Sure.
and quite frankly, terrible for everyone because those are magnetic tickets. You put them next to your phone or your credit card 5 minutes later, and they no longer work. You have to pull your hair off. Terrible experience. So fantastic for users, fantastic for the environment. Great idea. They rolled out a plan which was brilliant. The plan was don't do it overnight. We're going to schedule it over the next 3 or 4 years. We're going to start bringing new solution on board. We're going to advertise them. We're going to educate people. And then we're going to start closing a few stations that will no longer accept the paper tickets until we roll it out entirely. Beautifully orchestrated plan, I must say, especially for Paris Metro, unheard of. Very well done, well advertised, and the new options are fantastic. Not only you have the plastic cards that you can recharge, you have multiple options on them, but you can even use your phone using
Nice.
NFC. You
Nice.
download the app, and I mean that's great. That doesn't feel like Paris. That does feel like Hong Kong. So love the approach. Um, but that's where things become complicated because while there was fantastic change management, and I must say they did a beautiful job there, it was just partially done. So remember, I told you the entire network we have. There is one more layer of complexity. Most of those transportations would be true inside Paris. A few of them would only do suburbs to Paris. So everything like Transilien, which are the trains going to the suburbs, would always go from the suburbs inside Paris. You don't use them to travel within Paris, you use them to get into Paris. And until now, they were using the exact same system, meaning you could use those paper tickets. They've killed it in Paris. They have not killed it in the suburbs. Now here is a
Oh,
complexity. If you come from the suburbs, you pay a pretty expensive price per ticket. It's around $5 a ticket to come inside Paris, $5 to get home, so roughly $10 a day. But the advantage of that ticket is it allows you to come to Paris, but you can also keep using it for another 2 hours with every other transportation within Paris. So
okay. That's
most of the
nice and
time you
sensible.
exactly, because most of the time your office is not going to be next to the train station. Chances are, once you're inside Paris, you still need a train or a metro or bus or whatever it is. Now, since they have not made that change for the suburbs, The paper ticket still exists, and the NFC option does not exist yet. But your paper ticket that you pay for $5 because it's going to give you access to all the Paris transportation. Since they no longer accept paper tickets, well, you have a ticket that give you rights that you can't claim. And the only way to get it is each transport you get in, you start having a chat with a human beings, assuming there is someone, because more and more of these things are now,
This is.
automated, and you need to bug the bus driver or find someone at one of the entrances of the metro station to say, I have that ticket. If you could please control the validity and open the door manually so that I could get through. The whole thing for people living in the suburbs fall down. They had that beautiful, well thought, well rolled out plan. They just forgot that two-thirds of the population does not live within Paris and fucked it up entirely. And I find it magnificent to have that ability to create such a fantastic plan, but just forgot that half of your audience, if not more, is actually not concerned by your plan. So that's what I'm venting about today. Not why I got a cold, but probably what I was upset.
Yeah, maybe if the ticket had broken down a little more, you would have had to stay home and avoided the cold.
Well, we could talk about this as well, because now I have to pack my paper tickets in a special little bag that I keep by my heart. Make sure it's very far from my phone in the left pocket, my credit card in the right pocket, because 9 times out of 10, when I get to the train station, I need anyway to go talk to someone, say, demagnetized again. Can you please replace it?
Oh. So with this, you mentioned you got to find a person to help you out when you're stuck with a paper ticket. Is that something where when there is a person there you can talk to, there's like an hour-long line trying to get through it, or is it?
Chances are there's going to be a long line. You definitely don't want to do this. So what people are going to do is buy another ticket, buy the NFC version that's going to work in Paris, but then you actually pay twice because you bought your ticket.
You already said it's an expensive ticket, so
Exactly.
That's awful. And at first I was kind of like, well, this was a great big rollout. A detail got missed. I'm sure they'll fix it quickly. And you took pains up front to say overall this was done very, very well. But I lost that feeling when you said there's a very large portion of the commuters that this is going to impact. So it's not like they missed some little detaily one-off use case. They missed a really, really big use case.
They did, and not just that, but maybe a couple more details. First, what annoys me the most is I got super excited about their plan. I thought it was brilliant. I had to check their website, and then that's when trouble started. Their website was incredibly not clear, meaning they had a very long list of all the new options available, but no guide on which one is meant for me. You had to read through all the options one by one to figure out does that concern me or not. And reaching the end of that endless list, I got to the point where, hold on, I've scrolled for 5 minutes. I haven't found a single use case that actually matches what I'm doing. So I had to do search on Google to finally find a page that would explain that not available for you. And that was even more disappointing because I had downloaded their app. I had to find a way to reactivate my NFC, which is something I don't use on my phone normally. Had to accept all the settings, do the whole thing, link my credit card, ready to buy my ticket, and hold on. My ticket does not exist here. And just to find out, scrolling and scrolling, that does not exist for me. Now, the additional thing is maybe part of this is due to the fact that it's not one company, is at least 2, maybe more companies that share the entire network. But can you think customers first, not business first? You can have both, but you should not exclude customer from the experience.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going. Is this sounds like, I'm sure if we did the math, the number one problem we run into doing these is silos. and especially, cross company silos is by far the worst. But clearly, these are two organizations that that just aren't coordinated well together, and I'm sure that's the source of what broke down. But it's not like this was a surprise. It's not like this was something they didn't test for and understand. There's no, if you were to go to the people who ran this and say this is what I ran into, it's not like they'd be like, oh my gosh, really? Right? I mean, this is a very common use case. They had to have thought that through and seen it. I guess this kind of makes me think that the suburban rail, I'll call it, are they kind of like the weak partner in this ecosystem, and they just kind of, there was some hubris in some other groups and like, yeah, whatever, those suburban people, who care.
The weird thing is, I don't even think that's how it's divided. I'm not very familiar with the system, but I'm pretty sure they don't split. One company takes care of suburbs, one company takes care of the city. I'm pretty sure both of them have some lines in the suburbs and some lines within the city. So I don't even understand
Ouch.
how they managed to break the. And honestly, there were a few simple options. They could either have rolled it out everywhere, probably not the simplest of options, or they could have kept accepting tickets within Paris, but stopped selling them so that people within the suburbs could still use their tickets for a little while until that option would no longer be available. It would be replaced. The fact that you stop accepting them while you're still selling them is what's actually very weird about the poor quality of the deployment here.
Yeah.
And you say they don't seem to coordinate very well. Trust me, when there is a strike, they really know how to coordinate properly.
They coordinate beautifully. Yeah, but that's not management, that's the workers.
Exactly. No, so we have a management issue. That might be right.
Yeah. I don't know.
So any learnings?
Yeah,
Any learnings you would have?
There's the obvious one: silos kill. I think. Beyond that, I'm not sure. It's like, from what you said, this was very well done, with the one exception of a really common use. Well, a couple of exceptions. You went through a couple other things. I guess my other learning is this wasn't that well done. That the where it's going is great. Much of how they rolled it out seemed to work, but the bottom line, at least for you, and you represent a whole lot of people that travel that way, anybody who's coming in from the suburbs, it failed just outright. And I assume it will get there before too long, but right now I don't know how to do anything other than just call this a fail.
I agree. I think there are a few things, probably a couple of learnings for me. First one is try to figure out the most standard use cases. Make sure that whatever you roll out is going to work for the majority of people. And you may not satisfy everyone because you never satisfy everyone. But if that's the case, at least make sure you make these people aware of what's going to happen to them so that they don't have to search and be disappointed. Be straightforward with this. Be proactive.
Yeah,
How many times have we talked about proactivity?
I've gone back and forth as we've been talking, being sympathetic, wow, this is a whole new big thing, the website not keeping up with it. I understand how that could happen. But B, when you're rolling something like this out and there are going to be glitches, you're right, the website becomes so critical, and that there just should be, hot flash. If you're coming from the suburbs, this is what to expect. I think that's probably the best point on all of this is, okay, you're going to create stuff like this, but come up with a process to work around it in the short run, and communicate the heck out of that on your website.
Well, that was going to be my second point, actually. I think lots of the frustration would have vanished automatically if communication had been better. I think my expectation would have been, okay, I know about this. I get on their website. The first thing I see is a simple tool that tell me who you are, where you're coming from, where you're going, and I'm going to tell you first how this new system is going to work for you. And
Yes.
assuming that the new system does work for you, these are the two or three options you can take with their pros and cons, benefits and issues and cost and all of that. Instead of me going and proactively reading the entire page just to figure out nothing is meant for me, that is a fail. And if
That
you had done
is,
this differently, I would not have downloaded the app. I would have understood your purpose, and I think I'd be happier today.
yeah. And I know me well enough. If you gave me this overwhelming list, I get halfway through it. I would be thinking about what I'm going to have for breakfast, and I'd read a third of it, and all of a sudden go, "Oh wait, I didn't. None of that got in my brain. I probably read right over the part I care about, so I'm reading it 3 times." Uh,
That did definitely happen. But anyway, I think simple learning is change management. Incredibly important to test it, make sure it's valid for your typical customer use case, try to validate as much as you can. And if you can't get everything right, it does not matter. Just work on the communication, roll it out with not
communicate.
50 pages of stuff for people to read through. No one ever reads the terms and condition, but something super simple, customized that this is my use case. This is what's going to happen to me. And that's probably the core of the issue here.
I think you're right. I would tweak the communication a little bit. I think your structure is right, but I'm assuming for a chunk of the users, it's pretty straightforward. In this one case, it was not working well. There should be like when you go to the website, in addition to which is your use case, there should be a big red flashing thing saying, if you're coming from the suburbs, read this hot note, because clearly it's I mean, if there were 20 different issues like that across all the different things, then no, you just do it the way you said. But if I'm assuming there's one, maybe two, I hope, that this is the outlier sort of thing that they should be handling specifically.
I do think there is another major issue, but I didn't dig into it because I'm not directly concerned. So maybe they figured out a way. I'm thinking about elderlies. NFC, don't ask my parents to get on NFC.
Yeah.
They won't know what it is and how it works. Now, they would not get stuck on paper tickets specifically. Having a card would be fine by them if they were to take the train very often. But if they come once a year for a day, they would have to figure out, okay, do I take a day pass or half day pass? And do I need to go from A to B or A to C? And which cost is it going to be? It's still way too complex for people who are not used to this kind of thing, and definitely for elderlies who are not used to technology. And since they've rolled out all the staff that used to be on the ground, because we automate everything these days, right? So there is more and less and less people on the ground. So I think they probably, and maybe I may be wrong, I didn't dig into it, but I think they overlooked a little bit the elderlies part of the population or less tech-savvy people.
Well, it sounds like they also have a pricing and packaging problem if it's that complex that you do need that full website to understand all the different ways you're going to pay and the options and things. I don't know.
That's very true. I guess Parisians get used to this at some point, but it's true. It's way too complex. It should be simpler. I keep venting about my experience in Hong Kong, but I still love it. 15 years ago, we already had that octopus card, which is a card that you load with money. You can take any transportation you want. Even some taxis use that system. And you just use the credit to pay for the fare. You don't have to think about which card or which ticket or which. No, I have one card and it does everything from the floor to the ceiling. I don't understand why you have that in Japan as well. I'm pretty sure there must be some cities in the US or in the UK that have
New
the same
York's
thing.
done an interesting thing that's really good. You just use your credit card. If you've got, now that doesn't work for everyone, and then you can still get the tickets, but For me coming from out of town, it's like, yeah, just tap to pay.
Hmm.
Boom, done.
Yeah, as long as there are alternatives, because I could imagine not everyone does necessarily have a credit card or a credit card
There were
with a
alternatives.
no contact thing. Okay, well, that fantastic option as well. So, all right, Paris metro, bus, train companies, just please tell us what's coming next. We love the fact that you want to go paperless, but if you just could keep your customers in mind once you roll out this kind of thing, that would be fantastic. I feel better. Not my voice, but I do feel better.
Well, good. I'm glad. I think you should have a nice warm cup of tea and maybe a little brandy for your throat and get some rest.
I'll do both.
All
Thank
right,
you very
sounds
much,
good.
Max, and I'll listen to your story next week, which should be the last story of the year,
Oh
and
my goodness.
hopefully fully recovered by then.
All right. Well, sounds good. I look forward to it.
Thank you, Max.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.